In the stunned silence that followed the devastating gunfire at Hayes's exclusive private school, the world of Los Angeles's elite theater of betrayal and redemption seemed to hold its breath. News helicopters hovered overhead, their blades whipping the air into a frenzy of urgency, while below, ambulances raced with sirens screaming against the gathering dusk. When the first unofficial reports began to trickle in, that Steffy Forrester, paragon of strength and love, had been struck down by a stray round, the viral whispers spread like wildfire across social media, sending the fashion district into mourning and the Forrester, Logan, Spencer empires into a tailspin of grief. As cameras panned to the crime scene, sweat-streaked lawmen cordoning off a blood-stained quadrangle, Finn's white-knuckled hands tightened around the steering wheel of his unmarked black SUV. Beside him, Ridge Forrester, his brow creased with paternal fury, kept his gaze fixed on the road ahead, while in the back seat, a liaison from the FBI, stern, resolute, armed with secret warrants, unfurled a dossier stamped, "Eyes only." This was not merely a random act of schoolyard violence, they whispered. It was the culmination of Luna Nozawa's unrelenting vendetta, and Finn had agreed to a desperate, clandestine scheme to fake Steffy's catastrophic injuries so convincingly that the only person with motive and means to finish the job, Luna herself, would be drawn out of hiding and into a meticulously constructed trap. By the time the sun had dipped behind the Hollywood Hills, the Forrester Pavilion outside Los Angeles Memorial Hospital had been transformed into a shrine of sorrow. Floral tributes blossomed against the wrought iron railings, and candles flickered in the gathering gloom as friends, family, and well-wishers pressed their hands against laminated photographs of Steffy in happier days, her vibrant smile immortalized in glossy prints. Television crews jostled for position, projecting the most sensational angles, as Brooke Logan draped herself in black lace, her shoulders shaking with silent weeping, and Bill Spencer stood stoic by her side, his face set in grim resignation. Inside the glass doors, a phalanx of orderlies wheeled in a stretcher draped in white, its occupant hidden beneath multiple layers of gauze and monitors. Finn, disguised under a baseball cap and darkened glasses, slipped through a service corridor to rendezvous with Ridge and the FBI agent. The agent's voice, low and urgent, laid out the final details. "We have one shot at this. Luna believes Steffy is teetering on the brink. Her death will give Luna the closure she craves. When she appears, we move. You bring her in, we secure her, and we end this." Ridge's jaw clenched as he stared at Finn. "Are you sure you can sell this?" "Steffy's as tough as they come, but if the real Steffy shows up," Finn's reply was a whisper of steel. "Trust me. I've seen grief twist Luna's mind into a weapon. She believes her gift of vengeance is righteous. We give her that last kill, then spring the cage." As night swallowed the city, the trauma ward was bathed in cold fluorescent light, its linoleum floors polished to a sterile gleam. Nurses moved with hushed efficiency, adjusting 4 drips and scanning charts, while a dozen heart monitors beeped a chorus of anxious rhythms. In room 315, the silent figure beneath the sheets lay perfectly still, save for the rise and fall of an artificial lung. A head wound had been spectacularly staged prosthetic blood, a hidden incision. Yet the attending nurses and doctors, sworn to secrecy by the FBI's emergency directive, treated her injuries as genuine, affording Steffy every luxury of the world's most elite medical care. Outside the ward, a makeshift command post flickered with screens, live CCTV from the front entrance, audio feeds from the parking lot, and a grainy infrared view of the sidewalk where Luna was known to lurk. At a long table, Ridge leaned toward Finn. "She'll know something's off if I don't act the part," he murmured. Finn nodded and handed him a phony medical report stamped with the Forrester seal. "You'll read the lines. Critical condition, internal hemorrhaging, 0 signs of consciousness. The authorities back you up. Then we wait." Meanwhile, Luna Nozawa submerged herself in the underbelly of LA's hidden networks, moving between safe houses like a phantom. Each night, her battered phone buzzed with cryptic messages. "Tonight, she dies, hospital." The ghostly directives, sent from an anonymous cipher, were the final lures in the trap laid by her enemies and orchestrated by Finn's painful sacrifice. As the world believed Steffy hung between life and death, Luna prepared for her ultimate triumph. Draped in a tailored leather jacket that melded into the city's shadows, she crept through the hospital's back entrance at 2:17 a.m. bypassing unlocked fire doors with the quiet skill of someone who had run from captivity too many times to count. Her pulse thrummed with a chaotic blend of triumph and dread. After everything Steffy had taken from her, after every prison cell she'd inhabited, this would be the final act, the execution of the woman whose happiness had become the fuel for Luna's fury. Inside the corridor, the soft hum of the monitors grew louder as Luna approached room 315. The door stood ajar, guarded by a lone security officer posted only to maintain appearances. Luna, her boots silent on the polished floor, stepped into his line of sight and offered a hushed apology. "I'm here to see my friend," she whispered, producing a forged ID. The officer, lulled by the night's sedative quiet, barely glanced at the card before handing her the key card that clicked open Steffy's door. As he turned to walk away, Luna's lips curved in a grim smile. This was the moment she'd rehearsed in her mind 1,000 times. But when she crossed the threshold and flicked on the overhead light, expecting to see Steffy's battered form, she froze. There, not on the bed but leaning against the wall, walking steadily with no signs of injury, was Steffy Forrester herself, her hair perfectly coiffed, her brows slightly arched in concern. Her svelte figure clad in designer scrubs and adorned with a stethoscope around her neck. Steffy's dark eyes locked onto Luna's, and for a heartbeat the room held its breath. Then, with a calm that belied the danger of the moment, Steffy stepped forward and clicked the door shut behind her, the lock's snap echoing like a gunshot. Luna's throat tightened. She had expected a dying woman, a final mercy killing. Instead, she found her nemesis alive and free within the heart of the trap. Panic flared in her chest as the truth crashed through her. She'd been lured here under false pretenses, led to believe Steffy lay helpless when in fact she stood ready, every inch the strategist. The carefully crafted illusion, funded by Forrester millions and sanctioned by the FBI, had succeeded beyond measure, and now Luna's own survival instinct screamed betrayal. From beyond the door, Finn's voice crackled through a concealed earpiece. "Luna, this is your last chance. Step out with your hands up." But Luna crushed the earpiece in her palm, smashing the device against her thigh. The flicker of a red recording light on a hidden camera caught her eye, and her lips curled into a feral grin as she hurled herself at Steffy. The elder Forrester barely had time to catch her elbow, their bodies colliding like waves in a storm. Luna's dagger, smuggled in her belt, whistled across the linoleum as Steffy sidestepped, the blade grazing her arm and drawing a quick, shallow cut. Steel met flesh as mother and daughter-in-law grappled, the stethoscope jingling like a death knell around Steffy's neck. The crash of their struggle roared through the trauma ward, jolting nearby doctors and nurses to action. In the hallway, Ridge and the FBI agent rushed to the door, their footsteps a staccato of urgency. Ridge's hand hovered over the call button for the elevator, while the agent fumbled for handcuffs and backup radio. But as the pair reached the frame, Luna tore free from Steffy's grasp and bolted down the hall, her boots clattering over the painted exit arrows. Steffy, her arm bleeding, called after her. "Luna, it's over. You lose." But Luna's laughter trailed back like a curse, a sound neither mad nor joy but pure, unfiltered resilience. Holoscreens in the corridor blared with alerts. Code Silver, active intruder. The hospital's PA system crackled. All personnel, Lockdown Wing C. Repeat. Lockdown. Lights flashed red as magnetic doors sealed off patient rooms and trauma bays. Steffi limped after Luna, her designer scrubs now smeared with dirt and blood, determination burning in her eyes. Finn and Ridge split up at the corridor's fork, Finn heading left toward the supply closets, where Luna might restock weapons, Ridge sprinting right toward the exit stairwell, his tailored suit flapping behind him. The FBI agent, phone pressed to his ear, barked orders. Agents, barrier room 2B. Block the stairwell exit. Luna's mind raced as she rounded a corner and nearly crashed into Dr. Grace Buckingham, who, alerted by the code, was clutching a trauma kit and blinking owlishly at the chaos. Luna seized Grace's wrist, yanking her into the hall, but Grace's instincts took over. With a fierce elbow to Luna's ribs, she spun free and sprinted back toward the oar, radioing, "Intruder neutralized, need assistance in 316. Luna ducked into a side room labeled Staff Only, using her forged credentials to override the keypad. Inside, shelves of medical supplies offered her momentary refuge. She ripped open a pack of surgical gloves and yanked chemical vials from their racks, her plan shifting from revenge to survival. She would use whatever she could to brew a makeshift gas or toxin if cornered. Outside, Ridge and Finn converged. Finn gestured at the closed staff door. "She's in there," he panted. Ridge stomped forward, shoulder first into the reinforced door. The impact rattled the lock but held firm. From inside, Luna's voice taunted them. "Come on in, boys, this is where the story ends." Ridge drew back his fist, ready to batter the door down, but Finn laid a hand on his chest. "No, we need her alive. Let the FBI in." The radio crackled. Stairwell exit blocked. Intruders still inside. "Do you request gas?" Finn's jaw clenched, but he shook his head. "No, let me handle this." At that moment, Steffi rounded the corner, her face pale but resolute, support bandaging her arm. She placed a hand on Finn's shoulder. "She'll kill me if she gets the chance." Finn nodded and stepped aside. "Go to Ridge. Keep the hall clear. If she comes out, I'll talk her down." Steffi hesitated before slipping behind Ridge toward the stairwell blockade. Finn squared his shoulders, pulled a folding chair from the hallway, and wedged it under the door handle. Then he tapped in the override code, the bar sliding back as the door clicked open an inch. Finn's dark eyes met Luna's in the dim light of the supply room. For a suspended second, neither moved, but in that second, Luna saw the desperate compassion in Finn's gaze, the same eyes that had once held hers in a hospital bed, the same arms that had cradled her after nightmares. "Finn," she breathed, her voice ragged with betrayal and longing. "Why?" He took a step in, the door creaking wider, revealing the small arsenal of medical paraphernalia she'd gathered. Behind him, the hallway lights glowed and he knew Ridge and Steffi watched, guns drawn but unmoving. "Because you almost lost him," Finn said softly, placing a hand on Luna's shoulder. "Hayes believed you cared. He'll lose everything if you kill again." Luna's grip on the vial of chemicals tightened. "He's not mine to protect," she spat. "He despises me." Finn shook his head. "He's a child who needs a mother, someone who's alive." Luna's eyes flickered upward to the ceiling cameras, to the locked stairwell behind Ridge, to the masked SWAT figures behind the glass doors. "You set me up." Finn swallowed. "I set you free from the lie that you had to die to claim your revenge." The corridor lights blinked as a uniformed FBI agent pressed a canister under the door crack. "Need me to clear her out?" he asked. Finn glanced at the canister. "No," he said, stepping between Luna and the agent. "I've got this." He turned back to her. "Come out with me." Luna's shoulders slumped as exhaustion and regret washed over her. Slowly, she lifted her hands and placed the vial on the floor. Finn stepped forward, grasped her wrists gently, and pulled her to her feet. As they emerged into the hallway together, Finn's grip never wavered. Even as the FBI agents moved in to cuff Luna, her head bowed, her leather jacket torn, her eyes hollow with the knowledge that the final chapter of her vengeance had been written not with bullets, but with a father's love and a husband's clever ruse. In the aftermath, as Luna was led away and Ridge, Steffy and Finn embraced in the fluorescent glare, the trauma ward settled back into its routine. Yet the echoes of that night, of smoke-filled escapees, of faked deathbeds and final confrontations in sterile corridors, would linger in every whispered conversation, every haunted glance between those who had loved and lost and schemed and saved. For in the world of the bold and the beautiful, the greatest wounds are those carved into the heart, and the deepest victories are born not from triumph over others, but from the mercy we extend when all else fails.